Okay, good morning. Well, there's still stuff going on about the little dispute. I shouldn't say little. The dispute between Dore and Aaron Mate versus TYT, Cenk and Anna. Grayzone is pulled into it with maxblumenthal. Here's the situation. We, the progressives, are at in a war with the American empire and the establishment. And that's it. That is the root of the situation. The American empire, run by the establishment, by the billionaire class, are wreaking havoc around the world to loot it. To loot natural resources, to subdue populations, to keep labor rates like in the slave labor range. That's what we're up against. The liberal left are no longer relevant. The right, the conservative right, are no longer relevant in this war. They can have their little arguments about social conservatism or social liberalism. If you're a racist, or he's a racist, or she's a racist, Me Too movement, all of this shit is off to the side. It's they can have their little disputes and arguments because that social conservative versus liberal bullshit is the flames are fanned by the establishment. That's what the media does, is it exacerbates that situation. The corporate media push this stuff as a diversion to divide the population, to make the population impotent. But the war between the progressives and the American empire, that is our enemy. That is who we are at war with. And that's why the progressives, like Dore and Kyle Kulinski, Max Blumenthal, the LaRouche organization, you've got several groups like Kim Iverson and Chris Hedges. We've got a lot of people on our side. Sometimes even people on our side don't see the big picture. But that's what we're up against. That is what the debate is. And so when people like Cenk and Anna try to undermine this fight by covering for the establishment, trying to make it look like this war against Syria and the Middle East is all justified, then they become our enemy. Because they are shilling for our enemy. And that's the situation. That's the bottom line. You've got to understand that the establishment, what they used to call the blue bloods, okay? This group of families that have been carrying their wealth down through the centuries used to be out of London. They ran the British East India Company. And you can go back. These families go way back. You've got royal families running almost every country in Europe, and they're still there. They're still figureheads. They don't have as much power as they used to have. But I can tell you the Windsor family, which are German, by the way, the Windsor family still has a lot of power. The City of London. Are you kidding? They run the Saudi royal family. The Saudi royal family does nothing without permission by the Windsors. That's just a fact. Same thing with the Zionists. The Zionists are in Palestine because of the blue bloods, of the establishment. They set that country up. They put them in there with their double dealing and their bullshit. The establishment loves war. They love war. These people, I know some people have called them reptilians, but in a sense they are, because they work from a reptilian brain. They are psychopaths. They have no empathy. They have no mercy. They will do whatever they have to do, lie, kill, steal, to get what they want. These royal families are evil. And they've been carrying this bloodline down through the ages. They actually consider themselves the descendants of the gods. And when I say that the oligarchy, the establishment, loves war, let me explain something about history. World War I was actually a war against socialism. What was happening in Germany and Russia were labor movements were taking over. They were throwing out the oligarchies. They were throwing out the royal families. The Tsar of Russia and his family were drug out into the street and killed. The British royal family, when they were German, they freaked out. The Dutch royal family freaked out. They said, what in the hell are we going to do about this situation? Because they're going to come for us next. You know, they're going to come for our banking system and all of our wealth and our divine right to rule. So they set up treaties and agreements so that all you needed was a match to start the fire of war. They never fight in wars. Their children always get out of it somehow. Who fights the wars? The poor, the working class. And they get brainwashed into thinking that the war is for patriotism. That's how they do it. That's how they label it. And everybody's like, gung-ho, let's go in and take them out. It's a scam. It's a game. And who ends up making tons of money? The royal families and the oligarchy. They discovered that after World War I, how profitable war was. When they set up World War I, their plan was to get Germany and Russia to destroy each other. That was the game. That was the plan. Well, it didn't quite work. So that's why we ended up with World War II, because the plan was not complete. But you have British royal family and certain oligarchs funding Hitler and his idiots in the Nazi party, these crazy fools, because they knew what they were. And they knew what Hitler wanted to do. And the British royal family even had an agreement with Hitler to have a power sharing agreement to split the world into two empires. That's how evil the British Empire is. What do you think this whole Aryan race bullshit was? Blue bloods, divine right to rule, bloodlines. That was what the Aryan race was all about. Let's bring back the oligarchy. Let's make sure they stay in power forever. 1,000-year Reich. That's what it was about. Once you understand it, it's just so simple. The oligarchy makes a fortune on war, and look what they've done now with the war on terror. It's unending war. It will never end. It's like the 30 Years' War that you had between England and France. Who makes all the money? The banks and the oligarchy. And everything is destroyed. countless millions are killed, but they don't care because they get to be on top. What is the saying? It's greater to rule in hell than to serve in heaven. They believe that. So war is a racket. According to General Smedley Butler, it's a good book you should read because he figured it out. Every war that the United States was in was a war for the industrialists or the oligarchy to support their oppressive economic programs and plantations and operations in the third world. And that's what it was all about. Patriotism is the label, the game. Convince the American population that it's for patriotism. It's for fighting for our freedom and liberty. And the American population is too stupid to understand the game. It's so easy to figure out how stupid and gullible the American population is to fall for this bullshit. But the war on terror will never end. They're talking about, oh, we've been in Afghanistan for 20 years. The generals don't even know why we're there. Well, I can tell you exactly why we're there. Because Raytheon and Boeing and General Electric and Honeywell and all these huge corporations make trillions of dollars. They don't give a shit about how many people die in the meat grinder. So that's what you've got. That's what we're dealing with. So there's a small number of us, real progressives, not Pinos, progressives in name only, that identify the enemy. We know who the enemy is, and we must destroy them, or they will destroy us. It's us against them. Some progressives don't know the big picture. They don't know the real game that's being played, but that's it. Once you defeat the oligarchy, everything else will fall into place. We'll be able to spend this money on infrastructure development and high technology and work with Russia and China on space exploration and science. Solve water problems with water management. Solve power problems. Solve all the problems that we have with the medical industries. But as long as the oligarchy is in control, as long as the establishment owns Congress, nothing is going to change. Even Biden said, if I get in, nothing's going to change. That idiot. It's right in our face. So that's the war. Here's another good point. Why do you think that nothing is happening to any of the co-conspirators that were involved with Jeff Epstein? What do you think? Because we've got the names. We've got the little black book. They've got the videos. They know who these people are. But they're being protected because they have power and money. And that's the oligarchy. That's who they are. If you want to take down the oligarchy, you get some prosecutors with integrity to go after this case. But it's never going to happen. As long as you've got these little puppets and these little lackeys in there doing what they're told. Oh, make sure this nut doesn't come out. Make sure this gets squashed. Prince Andrew. Look at the situation. The royal family's been involved in pedophilia for years. Jimmy Savile. God. And it was, oh, geez, he would never do that. You know, he didn't know what was going on. He just happened to be hanging out with Epstein. You know, that's what they do. That's part of this whole power thing. The satanic insanity. These people are insane. They are as evil can be. You can't get any more evil than that. But these people don't care because they believe that they have the divine right to rule, and they are from the gods. And the gods can do whatever they want. Look at what the Anunnaki were doing. Look at the Greek gods. They were all the same gods. They were just different names. They warred among each other. They fought each other. They were having sex with each other, trying to perpetuate the bloodline. Oh, let's see if I marry that person and we have a child, then that son will rule. It's insanity. But it's been going on for thousands of years. And the royal families today, particularly the British royal family, they believe that they are a part of this bloodline. They truly believe it. I don't know what else to say. It's just staggering. They have destroyed the Middle East. They have literally destroyed it. It is in chaos. They have killed millions. And then for people like Kasparian to get up and complain about Aaron Mate protecting Assad in his chemical weapon attack, so-called, it's an abomination. And then she's coddling Madeleine Albright, who said specifically when asked on a news show that was 500,000 children's deaths in Iraq worth it? And she said, we think it was. These people are evil. They are sick. They are psychopaths. That is our enemy. That is who we fight against. And that is why we will tell the truth no matter whose side they're on. If Tucker Carlson says something good, we're going to congratulate him for that. We are going to emphasize those points. We are going to report on that. If anybody says anything good on any other side, we will report on that. Because this little squabble between the liberals and the conservatives is a diversion. It's bullshit. It doesn't mean anything. And to quibble, oh, I'm not going to go on that network because those are conservatives and they're Republicans. Go fuck yourself, idiots. It's a diversion. These people are irrelevant. They are pawns. They are tools for the establishment. And both sides, conservatives and liberals, both are part of this cabal. They are propaganda arms for the establishment. And the establishment owns the media. So, of course, they're not going to give you the real truth about what's going on. That's why you got to get it from independents. Then people like Aaron Mate and Max Blumenthal are critical in exposing the truth. That is why Julian Assange is critical in exposing the evils that are going on by the American empire. The American empire is wreaking havoc around the world. We are spending so much of our resources on a war machine. This is not a Department of Defense. This is the Department of Offense. This is the Department of Fraud, false flag operations, agent provocateurs, perfect example is the so-called insurrection, January 6th at the Capitol building. That incident where you had a relative peaceful rally held by Donald Trump, you had agent provocateurs within that group, which the whistleblowers have now exposed from the FBI and the CIA, and we know that that's true because that's the way they work. That's the way they operate. That is what they do. They have created a situation where the population has stupidly demanded that the government must do something about these domestic terrorists because that's the new straw man. They have built up this situation where the new enemy of the United States is the domestic violent extremist. That is the same game, the same game from the same playbook of the Iraq War. You take a person or a country that you want to go after and you create a myth of how they are an evil dictator. They may have certain problems. There may be corruption in their countries, of course. But they blow up the situation to make it look much worse than it did. Remember in that whole thing leading up to the Iraq ouster from Kuwait, and how that woman crying that the Iraqi soldiers were throwing Kuwaiti babies out of the incubators onto the floor to die? She was the daughter of the Prime Minister of Kuwait. They figured it out. It was a lie. It was a complete fabrication. But it's called a false flag operation. And what it does is it gets the population angry enough to, and it's called manufactured consent, to go along with some idiotic or evil war plan. Jimmy Dore had a clip from Wesley Clark, General Wesley Clark. And this was a week after the 9/11 incident in New York. He met with a general, a friend of his, and he said, "What's going on?" And the general said, "Well, we've decided to go to war with Iraq." And General Clark said, "Why?" General said, "I don't know." He said, "Well, they didn't have anything to do with 9/11. Yeah, I know." And then Wesley Clark went back a few weeks later, because we had already started this operation against Iraq. And he said, "Now what's going on?" And the general said, "It's much worse than you thought." He said, "They have identified countries in the Middle East that we are going to take down within the next 5 years. And that includes Lebanon, that includes Syria, that includes Libya, that includes Somalia, that includes Niger, and Iran eventually." And there you go. It's all of the countries that have been on the hit list. It's all the countries that have been determined to be run by evil dictators that gas their own people. The American people are so freaking gullible. Every time you hear that term, evil dictator that gasses his own people, then you can be guaranteed that it's bullshit. It's a lie. Syria, we were backing Al-Qaeda in Syria because they were going after Assad, and we were helping them. We were providing them with weapons. And as John Kerry said, we just sat back and watched the thing happen, watched it unfold. It was an operation. And then you've got TYT protecting this operation? Do they really know what they're protecting? Oh, Assad's an evil dictator. Gas his own people. They're repeating the bullshit. Oh my God. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. But that was the goal. In the beginning, you have the oligarchy, the establishment, the war machine has a goal. They say, we want to take out Iraq. How do we do that? Well, first of all, as the American Enterprise Institute, which were full of neocons, said that we are the last superpower, we need to start taking resources, but the American people will never go along with it unless we have a new Pearl Harbor. They created a Pearl Harbor. It was an inside job. Anyone that says it's not is a fool and an idiot. The evidence is overwhelming that it was an inside job. You don't set up a demolition on a building that size in a day. Building 7 was a controlled demolition. It fell at 5 o'clock. They even said we decided to pull it. You cannot set up demolition in a building that size in one day. That was planned. It takes at least a month. You had thermite all over the place down there, which is the material used to melt steel at a very high temperature quickly to bring down a building. And there were microspherules of iron all over the place down there. Thermite. The evidence is overwhelming, and anybody that buys into the official narrative are fools because they don't know history and they don't know how these operations work. What did it do? It created the manufactured consent for the American people to go along with what was called the Patriot Act. Look what it did. It set up policy where the NSA could spy on everybody. And what they do with that information is they spy on their political enemies. That's how it works. They say they're going after terrorists, but these tools that they have created are to go after and silence their political enemies. Anybody that's going against the American empire agenda. That's who they go after. That's who they will destroy. And I don't care if you're a conservative or a liberal or whoever, they will go after you just as they went after Trump. And I'm not saying Trump was good. His policies were shit. He lied just like all the other politicians about how he's going to be for the working class and we're going to bring back jobs and we're going to get out of the wars. He didn't do any of that. We didn't get into any new wars, thank God. But when the deep state and the military-industrial complex and Wall Street, those three entities, which are part of the oligarchy, when those three entities don't want someone like Trump to be in office, then you can be guaranteed that there's something good about Trump. Something, somewhere. He was probably behind the scenes trying to fight this thing because he was not a politician. He was not an insider. Now, Joe Biden, they backed him lock, stock, and barrel. Everything they put into it to get Biden elected, and there was voter fraud, and it will come out eventually. There were voter fraud on both sides. The Republicans were throwing off people off of the voter rolls that they thought might vote as Democrats, and the Democrats were running operations by planting misinformation in the media and using the big tech to silence the opposition, to muzzle the news, the press, to keep certain stories from getting out. Like, for instance, the Hunter Biden laptop bullshit with all his emails back and forth showing that there was collusion with the Bidens and Ukraine, that there was corruption going on. It is there. It is evident. It is obvious. They silenced that story because they knew it would hurt Biden's election. So we are in a war with a cabal of psychopaths. That is why they're trying to silence us. Now you should see this new initiative that Biden is putting out against domestic violent extremists. Look at the list. I'm going to get that and I'm going to read it to you. I'm in my car now, so I can't get all of it. But I'm going to read to you. Kyle Kulinski did it. Jimmy Dore had a segment about it. This is probably the most dangerous thing that has come down the pike from the oligarchy, because this is intentionally designed to silence the opposition, to maintain their power. If you have any grievance against the government, if you think that the government is overstepping its bounds, or if you don't like capitalism, whatever form it takes, then you are considered a domestic violent extremist. They manufacture consent for their policies, and that's what they did on January 6th. So, now you have got the situation with Syria, and TYT are now the enemy. They are not progressives. They are shilling for the establishment. However that happened, I don't care. If they got bought off by Katzenberg's money, whatever happened, they are shilling for the establishment. They are shilling for the American empire. When they attack Aaron Mate and his integrity on his reporting of what's really going on in Syria and what's really going on in Iraq with Julian Assange, and they attack Julian Assange, then they are the enemy now. That's who they are. And we are going to go after them just as we went after the liberals, the shit libs like Biden, who is corrupt to the core. He is not a socialist. He is not a communist. He is a towel boy for the oligarchy. That is what he is. And Kamala Harris, she's the same thing. She's a puppet. She will do whatever the oligarchy wants her to do. That is who the enemy is. That is what this war is all about. You can forget about all this bullshit drama and these little tit-for-tat bullshit. The main point is that we are at war with the oligarchy and the 1% and the American empire. And that is the bottom line. And that is what you need to focus on. That is who you need to pick sides on. Because that is the only fight worth fighting right now. Because that is who's destroying this planet. That is who is destroying populations in the Middle East. That is who is wreaking havoc on the American population. Suppressing us, keeping our wages low, keeping us in misery and poverty, spending all the money on the military, taking money out of hospitals. We can't afford Medicare for all. Bullshit, we can't afford it. We can't afford all these wars and this military buildup. That's what we can't afford. We have a water crisis coming here in the Southwest. They're not going to do anything about it. Look at what they're already saying. Well, we need to conserve water. Really? Farming needs to conserve water? How do you expect them to do that? Well, I guess you just stop growing so much food. So much damn food. Most of it goes to waste anyway. Fuck these people. God damn it. We need a NWAPA project. I'm going to do a segment on radical progress, because that's what this show is now. Radical progress. I'm going to talk about NWAPA, the North American Water and Power Alliance project, which will bring tons and tons and millions of acre feet of water, fresh water into North America. We need to create nuclear desalination plants all along the coast for power and for fresh water. That's what we need to do. We need high-speed rail. We need maglev technology in this country. This country is like a third world country. You go to Europe, you got on a high-speed rail. You go to China, they have the fastest train in the world. China. And the American Empire and the oligarchy attacked them. The American Empire is the terrorists. They are the terrorists. They are the ones that are wreaking havoc on everyone. They are the ones that are creating the terrorism with their agent provocateurs. That's how this operation works. You've got to identify it. You've got to understand it. You need to know who the enemy is. And that is the fight. Join the fight. Join us. That's it. Have a good day.